Hi again. I've put together my top 5 tips for how to fill your borders for free. So tip number 1, very relevant, Chelsea chop cuttings. What do you do with those tips that you've cut off? And it doesn't matter whether you've done the Chelsea chop or not, you can take cuttings from a lot of perennials this same way, just by cutting the tips of the new shoots off. So today I'm going to show you how to use the cuttings that you took after you did the Chelsea chop. If you haven't watched the video I did on the Chelsea chop, it's only a short one. This is what the Chelsea chop is. So you do it around this time of year, around the Chelsea flower show, and you can do it on flocks. So if you watch that video, this is what I did. So I went in, I got a stem of flock, went down to about there, took a cutting. And then rather than just throw those cuttings away, you can actually use them all, plant them up, and you'll get pots full of flock for nothing. And you can really sort of bulk up your garden for free doing that. So these are the cuttings that I took the other day in that video. I just put them in a bowl of water and they've been sitting there now for about 3 days. So now I've filled these little pots full of just multi-purpose compost. You take the cutting out, take those bottom leaves off there, because what you want it to do is you want it to concentrate all of its energy on growing roots and not feeding leaves. So if you do this later and you've got flowers on your flock, try and take it from a non-flowering stem or actually cut the flower off, because if you don't do that, instead of growing roots, the plant will give all of its energy to producing seed. So actually I'm going to cut those leaves off as well. I'm going to cut the bottom of that stem off because you don't need it very long, and then just make a little hole in the soil, and I'll show you how quick this is. So and in about, I would say, 4 or 5 weeks, these will all have rooted, and you'll have, you see that's very long stem that, because I like cutting them, doing the Chelsea chop at different levels, so that it looks sort of more natural. So I think probably 3 in that pot. That's got huge leaves on the bottom. I'm going to take them off as well. So that's one pot. This is another plant that I did it on, which is loose strife. Take that off. I would say maybe cut that down to just under a leaf node there. Pop that in. Because if you've got big clumps of monarda, or there's lots of different perennials you can do the Chelsea chop on, just Google it. If you've got big clumps of them, you know, you could have like 100 growing tips here, and just think how much these would cost you if you went to a garden centre and bought a few pots of flock. And then, as with any new plants or cuttings that you've taken, give them a good water until it runs out of the bottom of the pot, and then you stand these new plants somewhere in nice and light, but not direct sunlight. You don't want to stress them. Some people actually cover them up with plastic to stop them losing too much moisture. I don't, and they've worked anyway. And that's as easy as it is. That's all there is to it. So my tip number 2 is grow your own from seed. And I don't know whether you're like me, but if you've got magazine subscriptions and you get the free seeds, use them. Or take your own seeds. If you've got your favourite plants in the garden, when it comes to autumn and you get those seed heads, gather the seed heads. I will do a video to show you how, and then store them in either brown paper packets, anything where they'll not get moist, and keep them in. I keep mine in the fridge, so somewhere nice and cold and dark, and then in the spring I'll show you how to germinate those seeds. So tip number 3 is splitting your existing perennials that you have in your garden, and it's so easy. So this bank holiday weekend I'm going to be splitting a few clumps, but this is one that I'm going to split today, so follow me. So this is a clump of my favourite geum. I should have actually split this about 2 weeks ago when he was yay high, but I've been away on holiday, so that's the way it is. So I'll be digging him up. There's nothing to worry about. I'll dig him up, and I'm going to split this clump into four pieces, and then I'm going to spread that throughout the rest of my garden, because he's so tall for a geum and he's so orangey. He's beautiful, and that I find that really pops in my garden. So my tip number 4 is to rehome unwanted plants. And what you can do is keep an eye out in your neighbourhood. Keep an eye out in your neighbourhood for anyone getting block paving done, or any kind of building work where they have the skip outside, and just knock and say, you know, what are you doing with your plants? They'll probably be going in a skip, and as long as they don't have to dig the plant out for you and, you know, just knock on the door, ask them what's happening with the plants, because you are filling your garden up. Are they going in the skip? Are they reusing them? If not, would they mind if you took them? If you're not asking them to dig them out for you, they'll probably say, yeah, great, help yourself. I would much rather, if that was happening to me, I would much rather my lovely plants were going to a lovely new home. So that's a great tip. Case in point, this beautiful hydrangea, and he is beautiful, you'll have to come back and see him in the summer. He was destined for the skip, as was that hydrangea there at the back. And look at the structure it's given my garden. You know, these plants would have taken years to grow this big. Another good plant, which I've just discovered last year, moves very well and doesn't go back, are roses. You think, oh, they've got that huge taproot, and will they survive? They are tough as old boots. So yes, transplant roses as well. So have a go at that. On the same subject, why not do a plant swap? I do that all the time, particularly spring and autumn, when I'm sort of in the borders and I'm splitting plants. I do it with my family, I do it with friends. So it's like, oh, I love that clump of whatever you've got. I've got a bit of such and such, and do a plant swap. Last but by no means least is tip number 5, and that is buying bargain discounted plants. They sell them all over the place. So I've just got some recently from a big gardening centre, and they're plants which have missed being watered, or they're not the healthiest, let us say. So we'll cut this clip and I'll show you what I've bought. So these are the plants that I've bought, and I need another geranium, like a hole in the head, but they were £2 each, and I love trailing geraniums. I mean, aren't they gorgeous? These ones are all called cherry blossom. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cherry blossom, and then I've got a beautiful delphinium called lilac rose white bee. Again, £2. And then one of my subscribers had been watching the pricking out foxgloves video, and she said she loves foxgloves too, and she's got some apricot ones, and I thought, oh, I'd love an apricot one, never seen one. And then I found that, £2. So it's just a tip for any new gardeners. If you find a bargain corner and the plants look lovely and healthy like this, then I would have no qualms about buying them. And what you do is, if you haven't got time to get them in the garden straight away, I just pop them all into a tray. You could, another thing that works well is just a cheap washing up bowl. They sell them around here for about £1 each. Put them into that, because these poor little things are bone dry. And then water from the top, I would say, because they're good, they're big plants. Give them all a good soak. Then fill that tray with water. Or your washing up bowl, or whatever you've got lying around, and then push this somewhere shady. So behind my husband's car works very well. Put that somewhere shady and let them soak for at least 2 hours. The only exception I would say is if you go to a bargain corner and they've got really poorly looking plants. I'm not talking house plants here, I'm just talking garden plants. I would think long and hard before buying them, because it's why has the plant died? It's not, you can tell this has gone limp because it hasn't been watered and it's been sitting in the sun. But if the leaves are all bedraggled and brown, it could be that it's got something at the root like vine weevil, in which case if you just water that plant, revive it, put it in with some other plants, then you're spreading a disease or a bug into your lovely garden. So I'm going to let them soak for a couple of hours in there. They'll be fine. Just while we're down here, these are some of the cuttings that I took on my video saving on plastic, taking cuttings from geraniums in water. And for those who've seen that video, I was very worried about this peppermint geranium that I had. It's lovely, it's like velvet. Well, you can see the cuttings have all taken, and the original mother plant is spectacular. I will show you that in my conservatory video. So we're nearly finished. I just have one very big personal favour to ask. Please subscribe to my channel. It would mean so much to me and Monty if you would just click that button. It would help get my videos out there to as many people as possible on just how wonderful gardening is. Yes, he agrees. So yes, if you could do that. Thank you. Bye.